The emergency lights flashed red throughout the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Velthora stood at the central podium, her forearms gesturing wildly as she addressed the assembled delegates. The Cathari seldom called emergency sessions, which made the other council members pay attention. "We have discovered something deeply troubling about the humans," Velthora announced. Her voice carried the clicking undertones of her species' agitation. "For the past 3 years, they have been conducting secret research. Research that violates the spirit, if not the letter, of our agreements." The chamber filled with murmurs. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago, and many species still didn't trust them. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and refused to follow the normal patterns of civilized species. Velthora activated the holographic display. Data streamed across the air, filling the chamber with light. "My intelligence officers have uncovered a massive human database. They call it the Vault. At first, we thought it was a military archive. The truth is far stranger." She paused for effect, her scale shifting to a darker purple. "The humans have cataloged every single species that has ever gone extinct on their homeworld. Not just recent extinctions. We are talking about 500 million years of death. 5 billion species, all documented, studied, and archived." A Quillian delegate stood, his feathers ruffling. "Why would anyone waste resources on the dead? This makes no sense." "That's what we thought too," Velthora replied. "But look at the detail." She expanded the display, showing genetic sequences, behavioral studies, and ecological models. They have DNA samples preserved. They have reconstructed entire ecosystems that haven't existed for hundreds of millions of years. They have learned from their planet's mistakes." A calm voice interrupted. Every head in the chamber turned. Dr. Sarah Chun, the human ambassador, had risen from her seat. She was small compared to most council species, but she walked to the speaker's platform with the confidence of someone who belonged there. "Ambassador Velthora has given you the facts," Chun said, her voice steady. "But she hasn't told you what they mean. May I address the council?" The council speaker, an ancient methylene whose body was mostly translucent, gestured approval. Chum stepped up to the podium beside Velthora. "Earth is a planet of death," Chum began simply. "Our world has experienced 5 major extinction events. The worst one killed 96% of all species on our planet. Imagine that. Almost everything that lived died. And then life came back, different than before." She brought up an image of Earth, beautiful and blue. "Every species on our planet today exists because countless others died. We evolved in the shadow of mass extinction. We grew up knowing that nothing lasts forever. Nothing is permanent." The Arxian science advisor, a being of pure mathematics housed in a crystalline form, chimed in. "But what is the purpose of this archive? Nostalgia?" Chun smiled. "That's what makes us different from you. You see extinction as failure. We see it as a library. Every species that went extinct survived for millions of years before it died. That means it had solutions to problems. Adaptations that worked. Strategies for survival that were tested over geological time." She pulled up another display, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a fish and a crocodile. "This is a Tiktaalik. It went extinct 375 million years ago. But before it died, it solved the problem of how to move from water to land. Its fins became the template for every 4-legged creature that came after, including us." "This is ancient history," Velthora protested. "Interesting, perhaps, but irrelevant to—" "We're using it," Chun interrupted. "Right now, on our colonies." The chamber went silent. Chun continued, her voice taking on an edge. "You want to know why we cataloged the dead? Because we needed them. Earth taught us that extinction isn't an ending. It's a database. Every extinct species represents millions of years of successful evolution. Millions of years of tested solutions to environmental challenges. She walked around the podium, making eye contact with delegates. You all evolved on stable worlds. Your species reached intelligence without experiencing planetary catastrophe. You learned to avoid danger, to seek safety, to find comfortable environments. That's smart. That's rational. Chun's expression hardened. But we didn't have that luxury. We evolved on a planet that kept trying to kill us. So we learned something different. We learned to study death, to understand it, and eventually to use it. The Quillian delegate spoke up again, his voice uncertain. Use it? What does that mean? It means we reverse engineer extinction, Chun said flatly. We take the genetic code of species that died millions of years ago, and we extract their survival strategies. We implement them. We adapt them. We combine them in ways that nature never could, because those species never lived at the same time. Valthura's scales turned almost black with alarm. You're talking about genetic manipulation on a massive scale. This is why our colonies are succeeding where yours fail. Chun cut her off. You want to know our secret? This is it. We don't just use our own evolution. We use all of it. Every successful adaptation that ever existed on Earth is available to us. We call them extinction protocols. The chamber erupted in confused conversation. The council speaker raised his appendage for silence. When order was restored, he addressed Chen directly. Explain these protocols, he commanded. Chen nodded. We have protocols based on every major extinction event and dozens of minor ones. Each protocol is a collection of biological strategies that help species survive or adapt to specific environmental challenges. High heat, low oxygen, toxic atmosphere, extreme pressure, radiation. We have extinct species that thrived in all of these conditions. And now we can too. She brought up a star map showing human colonies. 17 of our colonies are on worlds you classified as uninhabitable. Not difficult. Uninhabitable. We're living there right now. Using genetic modifications based on species that died before your civilizations even existed. The Methylene speaker tilted his transparent head. You have weaponized death itself. No, Chun corrected gently. We've learned that death has something to teach. Your species fear extinction. You avoid it. You run from it. We studied it. We dissected it. We learned its lessons. And those lessons are keeping us alive in places where we have no right to survive. Valthura found her voice again. The council must know the full extent of this. Ambassador Chun, how many extinction protocols have you developed? Chun met her eyes. 47 major protocols. Hundreds of minor variations. And we're just getting started. Earth's fossil record goes back billions of years. We've barely scratched the surface. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Finally, the Arxian spoke, his mathematical mind processing the implications. You have created a biological advantage that no other species possesses. You can adapt to any environment by borrowing from the dead. Not borrowing, Chun said quietly. Inheriting. Every extinct species on Earth is our ancestor in one way or another. Their DNA contributed to the world we evolved in. We're just claiming our full inheritance now. The council speaker looked around the chamber, seeing confusion and fear on every face. This session is adjourned. We will reconvene tomorrow to discuss the implications of this revelation. As the delegates filed out, Valthura approached Chen. You've terrified them. Chun nodded slowly. Good. They should be scared. Not of us, but of what we know. That extinction is coming for all of us eventually. The only question is whether we'll be ready. The inspection shuttle descended through the thick, yellow atmosphere of New Sahara. Dr. Pixstar pressed his feathered face against the viewport, watching the barren landscape below. Nothing but sand and rock as far as he could see. The temperature reading showed 68 degrees Celsius on the surface. The oxygen level was barely 12%. "This is madness," Pixstar muttered to his fellow inspectors. "The council classified this world as uninhabitable 15 years ago. Why are we even here?" The Methylene inspector, Zexler, consulted his datapad. "Because there are 50,000 humans living down there. They've been here for 8 years. Pixstar's feathers stood on end. "Impossible. No oxygen-breathing species can survive in those conditions for more than a few hours, even with protective equipment." The shuttle landed at the main colony hub. When the doors opened, heat washed over them like a physical force. The inspection team immediately activated their environment suits, which whirred to life, cooling and oxygenating the air they breathed. A human woman waited for them on the landing pad. She wore light clothing, just a simple shirt and pants. No helmet, no breathing apparatus. She was smiling. "Welcome to New Sahara," she said cheerfully. "I'm Colonial Administrator James Way. Well, Jamie is fine. Sorry about the heat. It's actually a cool day for us." Pixstar stared at her. "You're not wearing any protective gear." Jamie looked down at herself. "Oh, right. You probably want to see that first, don't you? Come on, let's get you to the biocenter. I'll explain everything." They followed her through the colony. Humans walked everywhere, working in the heat like it was nothing. Children played in a courtyard. A group of colonists tended to crops that grew in the sand. None of them wore environment suits. Inside the biocenter, the temperature was still warm, but more bearable. Janie led them to a laboratory where screens displayed complex genetic data. "Okay, so here's the thing," Jamie began. "New Sahara is a terrible planet by normal standards. Hot, low oxygen, minimal water, barely any organic material in the soil. The council was right to mark it as uninhabitable. For most species, it is." She pulled up a holographic display showing a timeline. "But Earth went through something similar 252 million years ago. We call it the Permian-Triassic Extinction event. The worst extinction in our planet's history. Volcanic eruptions pumped so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that temperatures spiked. Ocean oxygen levels dropped to almost nothing. 96% of all marine species died. 70% of land species died." Zexler's body flickered with interest. "And yet life survived." "Exactly," Jamie said. "Some species made it through. They had to adapt to conditions, just like what we have here on New Sahara. Low oxygen, high heat, toxic air. And we found them in the fossil record." She brought up images of strange ancient creatures. "These are Lystrosaurus, synapsids that dominated the early Triassic period right after the extinction. They had metabolic systems that could function in low-oxygen environments. We extracted their genetic code and studied how their cells processed energy differently." Pixstar felt his scientific curiosity override his shock. "You incorporated their genetics into your own?" "Not exactly," Jamie clarified. "We can't just paste ancient DNA into modern humans and hope it works. But we can understand the mechanisms they used, how their mitochondria functioned, how their blood carried oxygen more efficiently, how their bodies regulated heat. Then we used gene therapy to introduce similar capabilities into our own biology." She gestured to herself. "Every colonist on New Sahara has undergone the Permian Protocol modifications. Our bodies can extract more energy from less oxygen. Our cells are more efficient at temperatures that would damage unmodified human tissue. We're not quite the same as our ancestors anymore, but we're alive on a world that should kill us." The inspection team exchanged glances. This was beyond anything they had imagined. Jamie wasn't finished. Come on, let me show you the agricultural sector. That's where it gets really interesting. They walked through tunnels to a massive greenhouse complex. Inside, plants grew in neat rows, their leaves thick and waxy. The soil looked more like sand than proper earth. These crops are based on Triassic flora, Jamie explained. After the Permian extinction, plants had to adapt too. Some developed incredible drought resistance and the ability to grow in nutrient-poor soil. We found fossilized seeds with genetic material intact enough to reconstruct their drought adaptation genes. She picked a fruit that looked like a cross between a tomato and a cactus. This tastes pretty good, and it only needs water once every 2 weeks. The roots go deep, pulling moisture from underground. The leaves have a coating that prevents water loss. Ancient solutions to ancient problems, but they work just fine for modern challenges. Pixstar was taking notes furiously. How many of these protocols do you have? Chun mentioned 47. Jamie nodded. The Permian Protocol is just one. We have the Devonian Protocol for aquatic colonies, using adaptations from early fish that could breathe air and water. The Cretaceous Protocol helps us handle high radiation environments, based on species that survived when solar radiation was more intense. The Carboniferous Protocol lets us thrive in high oxygen atmospheres that would be toxic to baseline humans. She led them to an observation deck overlooking the colony. Thousands of humans moved through the settlement, living their lives in conditions that should be impossible. Each protocol represents millions of years of successful evolution, Jamie continued. These species didn't fail. They survived for longer than most of your civilizations have existed. They only went extinct because conditions changed faster than they could adapt. But they left us their solutions, preserved in stone and amber and ice. Zexler spoke up, his voice thoughtful. Your species is colonizing worlds that others cannot. While we search for Earth-like plants, you can live almost anywhere. That's the idea, Jamie agreed. The galaxy is full of worlds that are almost right. Too hot, too cold, too dry. Wrong atmosphere, wrong gravity. Most species need perfect conditions. We just need conditions that some extinct species once handled. And Earth had species that handled everything. Pixstar looked out at the colony, his mind racing through the implications. You're not competing with us for the comfortable worlds. You're taking the ones we can't use, wouldn't you? Jamie asked. If you could. Before Pixstar could answer, an alarm sounded. Jamie checked her communicator and smiled. Oh, good timing. We're about to test the deep mining operation. Want to see the Hadean Protocol in action? Hadean? Zexler asked. Named after Earth's earliest eon, when our planet was basically hell. Volcanic activity everywhere, toxic atmosphere, extreme heat and pressure. But even then, life existed. Extremophiles that lived in conditions that make New Sahara look comfortable. Jamie's eyes gleamed. We're about to drill into a lava tube that's 300 degrees Celsius with sulfuric gas emissions. There are minerals down there we need. That will kill anyone, Pixstar protested. It would have killed humans 20 years ago, Jamie agreed. But we have bacteria in our bodies now. Symbiotic organisms based on extinct thermophiles and acidophiles. They let us survive in conditions that are technically inside a volcano. Not for long periods, but long enough to work. She started walking toward the mining site. Come on, I'll introduce you to the drill team. They're modified with both Permian and Hadean protocols. They operate in environments that exist nowhere else in the galaxy, as far as we know. Except they existed on Earth 4 billion years ago. The inspection team followed, stunned into silence. They had come to investigate a curiosity. Instead, they were witnessing a revolution in what was possible for biological life. As they walked, Pixstar turned to Jamie. How many protocols can one human carry? Jamie considered the question. Depends on the individual and the protocols. Some are compatible, some aren't. I carry 3 myself: Permian for the oxygen, Carboniferous for UV resistance, and a mild version of Pleistocene for temperature regulation. Some of our engineers carry 5 or 6. You're creating different subspecies of humanity, Zexler observed. Maybe, Jamie acknowledged. Or maybe we're just becoming what we always were, the inheritors of Earth's entire evolutionary history. Every species that ever lived contributed to the world we evolved in. We're just making that connection more direct. They reached the mining site, where humans in heavy gear prepared for their descent into hell itself. Pixar watched them and realized something that chilled him despite the heat. Humans weren't just adapting to harsh worlds. They were thriving in them. While other species competed for the limited number of paradise planets, humans were claiming an empire in places no one else wanted. And every world they took made them stronger, more diverse, more capable. The Galactic Council chamber was more crowded than Pixar had ever seen it. Word of the inspection report had spread quickly, and now every member species had sent their full delegations. The air hummed with tension and translated conversations in 100 languages. War. Marshal Crothoak of the Draken Empire stood at the central podium, his scales gleaming blood red under the lights. The Draken were the Council's military powerhouse, and when they spoke of threats, people listened. The inspection report confirms our worst fears, Crothoak announced, his voice like grinding stone. Humans are not simply colonizing hostile worlds. They are transforming themselves into weapons. Military weapons. He activated the holographic display, showing footage that made the chamber gasp. Human soldiers moved through a toxic swamp that would dissolve most organic material. They swam through acidic water and emerged unharmed. They scaled cliffs in thin atmosphere that should have left them unconscious. These are not normal humans, Crothoak continued. These are human military units enhanced with extinct predator genetics. Our intelligence shows they have incorporated traits from creatures they call direwolves, giving them enhanced smell and hearing. They have bone density from extinct megafauna, making them nearly impossible to injure with standard weapons. They have regenerative abilities from ancient amphibians that let them heal from wounds that would kill any of us. The chamber erupted in alarmed voices. Velthora stood, her purple scales dark with anger. This is exactly what I warned you about. The humans have turned their planet's death into a military advantage. They are creating super soldiers using the genes of extinct predators. Dr. Chun sat quietly in the human delegation section, her face calm. She had expected this. Crothoak brought up more images. We have also discovered that human expansion is accelerating. They now have colonies on 73 worlds. 41 of those worlds were classified as uninhabitable by Council standards. They are claiming territory at a rate that will give them control of the galaxy's most resource-rich hostile zones within 50 years. A Quillian delegate stood, feathers ruffling nervously. Are you suggesting military action against humanity? I am suggesting we contain this threat before it's too late, Crothoak replied. The humans have admitted they can iterate through millions of years of evolution in mere decades. They are advancing faster than any species in Council history. Today they enhance soldiers. Tomorrow they might enhance intelligence, aggression, or worse. We must act now. Act how? Pixar found himself asking, standing from his seat. With war? Against a species that can survive in environments that kill us? Crothoak's eyes fixed on the Quillian scientist. We restrict their genetic experimentation. We limit their colonial expansion. We put them under Council oversight until we can ensure they're not a threat. And if they refuse? Pixar pressed. Then we have no choice but to enforce these restrictions militarily. The chamber fell silent. War with humanity. The words hung in the air like poison. Finally, Dr. Chun stood. She walked calmly to the speaker's platform. Krothuk glared at her, but stepped aside. "You're afraid," Chun said simply. "I understand. What we've done is unprecedented. No other species has accessed their planet's full evolutionary library the way we have. It looks like we're becoming something dangerous." She paused, looking around the chamber. "But you're not afraid of what we've done. You're afraid of what you can't do. Every species here is limited to their own evolutionary path. You evolved on stable worlds, so you have stable genetics. You can adapt slowly, over millions of years, like nature intended. That's safe. That's comfortable." Chun's voice grew stronger. "But we can't afford safe. We evolved on a planet that kept almost killing us. We learned that extinction is random, violent, and inevitable. The question isn't whether death will come. The question is whether we'll be ready when it does." She activated her own display, showing a star map of the galaxy. "You're all focused on what we've done to ourselves. Let me show you why we did it." The map zoomed to the galactic rim, showing a spreading dark zone. The nanoplague in the outer rim. It's been spreading for 30 years. Your scientists say there's no cure because it adapts faster than any biological system. You've evacuated 67 worlds and counting. She changed the image. The dark matter instabilities in the Sagittarius arm. They're growing. Your physicists predict they'll start consuming inhabited systems within 200 years. There's no known way to stop it or survive exposure. Another image. The entities in dead space. Unknown, hostile, and expanding their territory. 3 council research stations have gone dark in the past 5 years. You don't even know what they are. Chun turned to face the council directly. These are extinction-level threats. Not for humans, for everyone. And you're arguing about whether we should be allowed to prepare for them. Velthor stood angrily. You're manipulating us with fear. These threats have nothing to do with your military enhancements. They have everything to do with it, Chun shot back. The nanoplague operates in temperature and radiation ranges that kill normal biology. But we have extinct species that lived in those conditions. The dark matter zones might be survivable with the right cellular adaptations. The entities in dead space might be vulnerable to toxins that don't exist in modern biology, but did exist in ancient predators. She walked closer to Volthora. You think we're making weapons to fight you? We're making tools to survive what's coming. The same tools we're willing to share with every species in this council. The chamber went silent. What? Krothok's voice was barely a whisper. Chun pulled up a new display showing the 47 extinction protocols. Every protocol we've developed is documented, tested, and ready to share. The Permian protocol could help Methlians survive low oxygen emergencies. The Devonian protocol could give Aquilians amphibious capabilities for aquatic rescues. The Cretaceous protocol could protect Cathari colonies from solar radiation spikes. She looked directly at Krothok. The Cambrian protocol includes defensive adaptations from armored species that could make your soldiers harder to kill without offensive enhancements. Would you like the specifications? The Draken War Marshal stared at her, speechless. Chun continued, her voice softer now. We're not your enemy. We're the species that learned from 5 billion years of death. Every adaptation we're using was tested over geological time. These aren't experimental modifications. They're proven solutions to survival challenges. Zexler, the Methelian inspector, stood. Why would you share this? What do you gain? Survival? Chun said simply. Not just ours. Everyone's. The galaxy is more dangerous than any of us want to admit. The comfortable worlds are temporary. The stable conditions are an illusion. Extinction events don't care about politics or borders or species. They just come. She brought up an image of Earth during the Permian extinction. Volcanic eruptions, toxic skies, dying oceans. This is what Earth looked like when 96% of its species died. Life survived because some organisms had adaptations that others didn't. The survivors weren't the strongest or the smartest. They were the ones with the right tools for the specific disaster they faced. Chun looked around the chamber. We can't predict what disaster will come next, but we can prepare for as many possibilities as our planet's history teaches us. And that history says that diversity is survival. The more different solutions we have available, the better our chances when the universe tries to kill us. Pigstar stood again. You're offering to help us survive extinction events that haven't happened yet? I'm offering to share the library, Chun corrected. What you do with it is up to you. Some protocols might not work for your biology. Some might need to be adapted. But the information is available. The genetic codes, the mechanisms, the tested results from millions of years of evolution. She turned to the council speaker. I propose a vote. Not on restricting humanity. On whether the council wants access to extinction protocols. If you vote yes, we share everything. If you vote no, we keep it to ourselves and continue our work independently. The council speaker was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying across the chamber. This is an unprecedented offer. We will vote tomorrow. Council members should consider carefully whether they trust humanity's intentions and whether they believe these protocols serve the greater good. Krothuk stepped forward. I vote now. I vote no. This is a manipulation. They're offering us a poisoned gift. That's your right, Chun acknowledged. But ask yourself this, War Marshal. If the nanoplague reaches Draken space, and your soldiers start dying in conditions they can't survive, will you still refuse protocols that might save them? Pride is a luxury. Extinction doesn't care about it. The session ended in chaos, with delegates arguing among themselves. Pigstar made his way to Chun as the chamber emptied. You've gambled everything on this offer, he said quietly. Chun nodded. We had to. We can survive alone if we have to, but surviving isn't thriving. We need partners, not enemies. And everyone in this galaxy needs more tools for survival, whether they admit it or not. Some will refuse out of fear or pride, Pigstar warned. I know, Chun said, but some won't, and that's enough to start with. The council chamber was packed again the next day. Every seat filled, every species represented. The air crackled with anticipation as delegates took their places. This vote would determine the future of human council relations, possibly for generations. The council speaker called the session to order. We vote today on humanity's proposal to share extinction protocols with all willing council species. Each delegation will vote in order of seniority. The vote requires a simple majority to pass. One by one, species cast their votes. The Quillians voted yes, influenced by Pigstar's enthusiastic report. The Cathari voted no. Velthora still convinced this was a trap. The Methalians voted yes. The Draken voted no. Krothuk's face twisted with anger. The votes continued. The chamber keeping count on the main display. Yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes. The council was splitting almost perfectly down the middle, just as Chun had predicted. Some species saw opportunity. Others saw only threat. Finally, only one vote remained. The chamber fell completely silent. The eldest will now cast the deciding vote, the council speaker announced. A crystalline structure at the far end of the chamber began to glow. The eldest rarely attended council sessions physically, preferring to observe remotely. When they did appear, everyone paid attention. They were the oldest known species in the galaxy, predating the council itself by eons. The crystal pulsed with light, and a voice filled the chamber. It sounded like music and mathematics combined, translated into words everyone could understand. "We have listened to this debate with great interest," the eldest began. "It has been 300 years since we last spoke in this chamber. We do so now because this moment matters more than most of you understand." The crystal brightened and images appeared around it. Worlds destroyed, species gone, entire civilizations reduced to archaeological curiosities. "We have seen many species rise and fall," the eldest continued. "Most follow predictable patterns. They evolve on stable worlds. They develop technology. They spread to similar worlds. They grow comfortable. And then, when conditions change too quickly, they die." The images shifted, showing the eldest's own history. Strange creatures on an alien world, then the same species changed, adapted, diversified. "We survived our son's death," the eldest said quietly. "Not because we were special. Not because we were the strongest or smartest. We survived because we learned what the humans have learned. That survival requires more than your own evolution. It requires access to all evolution." Krothok stood abruptly. "You used extinction protocols? Your own version?" "We incorporated genetic material from 17 extinct species from our homeworld," the eldest confirmed. "It took us 100,000 years to develop the philosophy and technology necessary to do so. It took humanity less than 500 years from discovering genetic science." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The eldest had never shared this information before. "That is what makes this moment significant," the eldest continued. "Not what humanity has done, but how quickly they did it. Most species require vast amounts of time to accept the truth that humanity has already embraced." "What truth?" Velthora demanded. The crystal pulsed, and the voice grew softer, almost sad. "That your species is temporary. That extinction will eventually claim everyone in this chamber. That the only immortality is in what you preserve and pass on." The eldest showed more images. Species after species, all incorporating genetic material from their extinct predecessors. This is not humanity's innovation. It is an inevitable step for any species that wishes to transcend their original environmental limitations. The humans simply reached this step faster than any species we have observed. Pixar stood, his voice thoughtful. "Why does it take so long? What prevents other species from doing this sooner?" "Fear," the eldest said simply. "Fear of death. Fear of change. Fear of admitting that nature's first attempt at your species is not the final or best version. Most species cannot psychologically handle the idea that they must change to survive. They want to believe they are already perfect, already complete." The crystal dimmed slightly. Humans evolved on a planet that refused to let them believe that. Earth taught them that perfection is death. That adaptation is life. That extinction is not failure, but transformation. Chun spoke up from her seat. "We didn't choose to think this way. Our planet forced us to." "Precisely," the eldest agreed. "Your species learned young, what most learn old, if they learn it at all. The question before this council is not whether humanity's approach is right or wrong. It is whether the rest of you are ready to learn the same lesson." The eldest's voice grew stronger, more commanding. "We vote yes on humanity's proposal, but we add a warning to all parties." The crystal flared bright, commanding everyone's attention. "To humanity, do not lose your respect for death in your enthusiasm for resurrection. The species you have brought back were not failures. They were successes that met their end. Treat their legacy with honor. Remember that you too will one day be extinct. And what matters is what you leave behind for those who come after." Chun nodded slowly, the weight of those words settling on her. The eldest turned their attention to the council. "To all other species, do not fear this tool because you are not ready to use it. The galaxy grows more dangerous every year. The nanoplague spreads. The dark matter zones expand. Unknown threats emerge from dead space. You will need more than your own evolution to survive what is coming. The crystal pulsed one final time. We abstained from galactic affairs for 3 centuries because we believed the Council could navigate its own path. We speak now because this choice will echo through the ages. Choose adaptation over stagnation. Choose survival over pride. Choose to learn from the dead rather than ignore their lessons. The vote was final. The proposal passed by a single vote. The chamber slowly emptied as delegates processed the outcome. Some left angry. Others left thoughtful. A few approached the human delegation immediately to discuss protocol transfers. Krothuk approached Chun, his expression still hostile but less certain. My people will not accept your protocols. We do not need them. That's your choice, Chun replied calmly. The offer stands if you change your mind. The war marshal leaned closer. If this is a trick, if humanity uses this to gain advantage over those who trust you, the Dracum will not forget. It's not a trick, Chun assured him. But I understand your caution. Time will prove our intentions. After Krothuk left, Pigstar approached with several other Quillian scientists. We want to begin immediately. The Cretaceous Protocol for radiation resistance, the Devonian Protocol for aquatic adaptation. My people have colonies where these could save lives. Chun smiled. We'll set up data transfers tomorrow. Your scientists can begin reviewing the protocols, and we'll provide technical support for implementation. Zexler joined them, his transparent body shimmering. The eldest's words carry great weight. They essentially confirmed that your approach is the future of galactic civilization. Or one possible future, Chun said. Every species will adapt this technology differently, based on their needs and ethics. We're just opening the door. Days later, Chun stood in the vault on Earth, surrounded by data archives stretching into the distance. Each one contained the genetic legacy of extinct species, preserved and studied and ready to serve the living. Dr. Marcus Webb, head of the Vault Project, joined her. The first protocol transfers are going well. The Quillians are fast learners. The Methalians are already planning modifications for their biology. Good, Chun said, running her hand over a data terminal. What about the holdouts? 17 species refused outright. 23 are still deciding. The Draken are vocal about their refusal, but our intelligence suggests they're secretly studying the data we released publicly. Chun smiled. Pride takes time to overcome. They'll come around when they need to. She looked up at the vast archives. 5 billion extinct species, each one a solution to a problem, a strategy for survival tested over millions of years. And now that knowledge was spreading across the galaxy. Do you think we did the right thing? Webb asked. Sharing everything? Chun considered the question. The eldest said something important. That extinction comes for everyone. We can't predict which species will face which threat. But if we all have access to the full library of survival strategies, we all have better chances. She turned to face Webb. Earth taught us that diversity is survival. Not just genetic diversity within a species, but diversity of solutions across all life. Every species that ever lived contributed something to the story of survival. We're just making sure that story continues. Webb nodded. Some species will use the protocols better than others. Some will modify them in ways we never imagined. Good, Chun said firmly. That's how evolution works. Take what works, change what doesn't, pass it on. We're not the end of this story. We're just the species that remembered to look backward before moving forward. They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by the legacy of billions of years of life and death. You know what the eldest really told us? Chun said finally. That we're all temporary. Every species in that council chamber will eventually go extinct. But if we share what we learned, if we preserve the solutions we discovered, if we treat extinction as a library instead of an ending, then something of us survives. She pulled up a display showing human colonies across the galaxy. 73 worlds, each one using protocols from extinct species. And now, council species beginning their own implementation, adapting Earth's extinct legacy to their own needs. We didn't turn extinction into a weapon, Chun said quietly. We turned it into a gift. The greatest gift Earth could give the galaxy. The wisdom of 5 billion years of survival, failure, adaptation, and endurance. Webb smiled. Think any of it will matter 1,000,000 years from now. Chun looked at the archives, thinking of the eldest's words about immortality. If we do this right, someone will be standing in a vault like this 1,000,000 years from now, looking at our data, learning from our extinctions, and using what we discovered to survive whatever comes next. That's all any species can hope for. She turned toward the exit. Come on. We have 17 more species requesting protocol consultations today. The dead have more to teach, and for the first time in galactic history, everyone's willing to learn. As they left, the vault's lights dimmed automatically, preserving the data for future generations. 5 billion extinct species, their legacy finally recognized not as failure, but as the foundation for all survival to come. Earth's greatest gift to the galaxy was written in the language of extinction, and the universe was finally learning to read it.